The coffee mug shattered against the kitchen towel, not thrown, just slipped from my hand when she said it. "Die broke, Richard. I hope you die broke and alone." Her lawyer was already packing up his briefcase, pretending not to hear. 26 years of marriage, and that's what it cost me to hear my own name spat like poison. I didn't bend down to pick up the pieces. I just watched the brown stain spread across the grout, watched her Louboutins step over it without breaking stride, watched the door close on everything I thought I'd built. That was Monday. By Friday, she was calling. The mediator's office smelled like lemon cleaner and expensive leather, the kind of place where people divide their lives into spreadsheets and property settlements. I sat across from Linda's wife. Linda, I had to keep reminding myself while her attorney, some sharp-eyed woman in a gray suit, slid documents across the mahogany table like she was dealing cards. The vacation home in Sedona, the attorney said, not looking up. Mrs. Hewitt is willing to waive her claim in exchange for an additional 15% of the business equity. Linda's fingernails painted that deep wine color she always wore to important meetings, drummed once against the table. She didn't look at me, hadn't looked at me directly since we'd walked in 40 minutes ago. "The business equity that doesn't exist," I said quietly. Now she looked. Her eyes were the same hazel I'd fallen for at a college bar in 1982, but something in them had gone flat, like pennies left too long in the rain. "Don't start," she said. "Start what?" "Telling the truth." I leaned back in the chair. It creaked. Probably cost more than my first Carand. Tried to keep my voice level. Hewitt and Sons Construction hasn't turned a real profit in 18 months. You know that? You signed off on the accounts because you ran it into the ground. The mediator, an older guy with reading glasses on a chain, cleared his throat. "Let's keep this productive, folks." But Linda was already leaning forward, and I recognized that look, the one she got when she'd been storing something up, letting it ferment into something meaner than it started out. "You know what your problem is, Richard? You're small." She said it like a diagnosis. Small dreams, small vision, small results. I gave you the best years of my life, and what do I have to show for it? A company drowning in debt, and a husband who thinks integrity pays the bills. My jaw tightened. I could feel my back teeth grinding together. Integrity kept food on the table for 26 years. Barely? She laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. "Do you know what Sheila's husband just bought her? A summer place in the Hamptons." The Hamptons, Richard. Meanwhile, I'm driving a 7-year-old Lexus and wearing last season's. You want me to apologize for not being a millionaire? I want you to admit you failed. Her voice dropped lower, and somehow that made it worse. She was telling me a secret instead of gutting me in a room full of strangers. Failed as a businessman. Failed as a provider. Failed as a husband. The mediator's pen had stopped moving. The attorney was looking at her phone, probably wishing she'd charged more for this session. I stared at the settlement papers. My signature line was blank. Hers already had that swooping L she'd practiced until it looked like something from a movie contract. "Is that what you really think?" I asked. Think you're going to sign those papers, take your half of nothing, and then I think." She paused, recrossed her legs, adjusted the Hermes scarf at her throat. "I think you're going to die broke and alone in whatever sad little apartment you end up in. And honestly, you'll deserve it." The lawyer inhaled sharply. Even the mediator looked up. But I couldn't move. The words just hung there in the recycled air between the potted fern and the framed certificates on the wall that probably said this guy had credentials in conflict resolution or some shit. "Linda!" Her attorney started, but Linda waved her off. "He knows I'm right," she said, standing up. Don't you, Richard? You know exactly what you are. She gathered her purse some designer thing I'd bought her for our last anniversary. Back when I still thought buying things could mean something, and walked toward the door. Her heels made sharp little clicks against the hardwood. At the threshold, she turned back. I'll have my attorney send revised terms. Sign 'em. Don't sign 'em. I honestly don't care anymore. Then she was gone. The mediator took off his glasses, pinched the bridge of his nose. Mr. Hewitt, that was inappropriate. If you want to file a complaint about, it's fine. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. Can we reschedule? Of course. He was already standing, already wanting me gone so he could call his next appointment, probably tell his wife over dinner about the couple who'd imploded in his office. I signed nothing, took nothing, just walked out into the Phoenix. It was June, 107 degrees. In the shadowed, sat in my truck for 20 minutes with the windows down, letting the steering wheel burn against my palms. Die broke, 26 years, 2 kids we'd raised, sent to college on loans I was still paying off, a business I'd built from a single pickup truck and a toolbox my father gave me. 63 years old, and this is what it amounted to. A woman who looked at me like I was something stuck to her shoe. I drove home the rental house I'd moved into 3 months ago when she'd changed the locks on our place and sat on the second-hand couch until the sun went down. Didn't turn on the lights. Didn't eat. Just sat there replaying it. Small dreams. Small vision. Small results. My phone buzzed around 8. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dad, Tommy? My youngest, 28. Working some tech job in Seattle. I'd never fully understood. Hey, bud, Mom called me. His voice was careful, the way you talk to someone on a ledge. She told me about the meeting. Dad, she's just she's angry. She doesn't mean she meant it. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, a neighbor was watering his lawn, perfectly straight lines of green in the gravel yard. She meant every word. Silence on the line. Then, what are you going to do? Good question. I'd been asking myself that for 3 months. What do you do when the person who was supposed to know you best decides you're not worth knowing? When the life you built gets appraised and found worthless? I don't know yet, I told him. We talked for a few more minutes, surface stuff. Safe stuff, and then he had to go. Meeting in the morning. Always a meeting in the morning. I sat back down, looked at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me. That wobble in the left blade I kept meaning to fix. Die broke and alone. Well, at least she'd been specific. Tuesday morning, I was up at 5:30. Old habit. Construction doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Doesn't care if you spent the night staring at the cracks in a rental house ceiling. I made coffee in the Mr. Coffee I'd bought at Walmart. Linda had kept the espresso machine, the one that cost more than my first month's rent. Here and drove out to the Mesa job site while the sky was still that bruised purple color that comes before sunrise. The Martinez build, 3-bedroom custom home, Spanish tile, the whole 9 yards. We'd started it 8 months ago, back when I still had a crew of 6. Now it was me, my foreman, and Miguel, and whatever day laborers we could afford twice a week. Miguel's truck was already there when I pulled up. Dusty white Ford with a toolbox that had more duct tape than metal. He was sitting on the tailgate, thermos of coffee in hand, looking at his phone. Morning, boss, he said, not looking up. Morning. I grabbed my hard hat from behind the seat, the same one I'd worn for 20 years. My name faded to ghost letters across the backhand. Walked the property line. The framing was done. Roof was on. But we were weeks behind on interior work. Drywall was supposed to go up in April. It was now June. The client, some neurologist, moving from California, had stopped returning my calls. "We got a problem," Miguel said, walking over. He was 52, had worked with me since '09, and I'd never seen him look worried. He looked worried now. "Supplier called, says we're 60 days past due on the lumber order. They won't deliver the trim work until we settle up." "How much?" $4,300. I pulled off my hat, wiped the sweat already forming on my forehead. The sun wasn't even up yet, and it had to be 90 degrees. "I'll call them Richard." Miguel never used my first name. "Always boss or Mr. Hewitt. I'll call them." "You want me to tell you what they're going to say?" I looked at him really looked. He had 3 daughters, 2 in high school, 1 starting ASU in the fall. He'd been stretching his paychecks for months, taking on weekend work I knew he didn't tell me about because he didn't want me to feel worse than I already did. "They're going to say the account's flagged," I said quietly, "and they're going to ask when they can expect full payment." We stood there in the dirt lot, 2 men who'd built half the houses in this development over the years, who'd worked through the summer heat and the occasional winter freeze. Who knew the difference between 16-inch centers and 24? Just by looking. "I can make payroll Friday," I told him. "Matters, boss. That's what matters, Miguel." He nodded slowly, took a sip of his coffee. "Oh, but after Friday, I think we need to talk about." My phone rang. Unknown number again. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Hewitt Construction, Richard Hewitt." A woman's voice, professional, clipped, speaking. "This is Diane Portman from Southwest Business Solutions. I'm calling regarding an outstanding balance of $18,600 for commercial equipment rental. Our records show I walked away from Miguel toward the half-finished house, stepped through where the front door would eventually be." "I'm aware of the balance," I said. "Mr. Hewitt, the account is now 94 days delinquent. We're going to need to schedule a payment plan, or we'll be forced to move forward with collections." Inside, the house was just studs and potential. You could see through the walls to where the kitchen would be, where someone would eventually stand washing dishes and looking out at the mountains. I'd designed those window placements myself. Got the sunrise perfect. "I understand," I said. "Can I call you back Friday?" A pause. The sound of typing. "Mr. Hewitt, I'm going to be honest with you. Friday isn't going to cut it. We need at least a partial payment today to keep this out of collections." "I don't have a partial payment today." "Then I'm afraid I'll have something Friday. 500. "That's what I can do." More typing. A sigh that tried to sound sympathetic and just sounded tired. "I'll make a note, but Mr. Hewitt, this is a courtesy. If we don't see significant progress by end of month, we'll have no choice but to thank you for the courtesy," I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking. 63 years old, and my hands were shaking like some kid who'd never carried a load. I sat down on a stack of drywall sheets that wouldn't get hung this week, maybe not next week either. The thing about construction is it's honest. You can't fake a level floor, can't pretend a foundation's square when it's off by 3 inches. The work either stands or it doesn't. I'd build my business on that. On showing up, doing it's right, standing behind it. And now I was sitting in an unfinished house, dodging calls from creditors, trying to figure out how to pay the guy who'd been loyal to me for 15 years. Small dreams, small vision, small results. Maybe Linda was right. Maybe this whole thing, integrity, the handshake deal, the belief that good work mattered more than good marketing, maybe. It was just another word for failure. My phone buzzed. Text message. I almost didn't look. Figured it was another creditor, another past due notice. But it wasn't. Linda, we need to talk. It's important. Can you meet me for coffee? I stared at the screen. Read it 3 times. We hadn't had a civil conversation in 8 months. Hadn't had coffee together in longer than that. The only words she'd had for me yesterday involved dying broke and alone. I typed back when the response came immediately. Linda today, noon, the Starbucks on Camelback. Please, Richard, it's important. Please. Linda didn't say please. Not to me. Not in the last decade. Anyway, I stood up, brushed the drywall dust off my jeans. Miguel was out front, measuring something, making notes on his clipboard, doing the work even when the work didn't make sense anymore. Miguela, I called. I gotta take off for a couple hours. You good here? He looked up, squinted against the sun. Everything okay? Don't know yet. I drove back to the rental house, showered in the cramped bathroom with the water pressure that never got quite strong enough, put on the one clean button-down I had left. Blue. Linda used to say it brought out my eyes, back when she cared about things like that. The Starbucks was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax prep place that was closed for the season. I got there 10 minutes early, ordered a black coffee I didn't want, and sat at a table by the window. At 12:03, Linda walked in. She looked different, smaller somehow. She was wearing jeans, expensive ones, probably, but still jeans, and a white blouse that looked like she'd grabbed it without thinking. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No scarf, no designer bag. She saw me, hesitated, then walked over. Richard, she said. Linda. She sat down across from me, folded her hands on the table. Her wedding ring was gone. Of course it was. Mine was too, sitting in a drawer somewhere back at the rental. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, I'm sorry about yesterday, about what I said. That was cruel. I sipped my coffee. It was too hot and tasted like burnt toast. Was it true? I asked. What you said? Was it true? Or was it just cruel? She looked away, toward the window. Outside, someone was loading groceries into a suburban normal life. Normal problems. Both, she said finally. I think it was both. Okay. Richard, I need to ask you something. She turned back to me, and I saw something in her face I hadn't seen in years. Fear. Actual fear. I need help. I didn't say anything, just waited. Let the silence stretch out between us. The 26 years we'd shared, all that history sitting there, at a Starbucks table, surrounded by people ordering frappuccinos and checking their phones. Linda's fingers traced the edge of her coffee. Cup she'd ordered something complicated. Extra foam, vanilla, the whole production, but she wasn't drinking it. I lost my job, she said finally. The words came out flat, practiced, like she'd been rehearsing them in the car on the way over. When? 3 weeks ago. She looked up at me. They called it restructuring. 22 years at Pinnacle Financial. And they restructured me right out the door. Pinnacle was where she'd worked since before we had kids. Senior account manager, good salary, benefits that had covered our family for 2 decades. She'd loved that job, loved the title, loved the business cards with her name embossed in gold lettering. Linda, I'm sorry. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't do that. Don't be nice. I don't deserve you being nice after what I said yesterday. A teenager walked past our table, backpack slung over one shoulder, laughing at something on his phone. The espresso machine hissed. The acoustic guitar music they always played was doing that thing where it sounds like every other song. What did they give you? I asked. Severance. 4 weeks. She laughed, but it came out bitter. 4 weeks for 22 years, and my 401k's ... It's not what I thought it would be. I knew what that meant. She'd been borrowing from it. Probably 4 years, trying to keep up with the Sheilas and their Hampton houses and their lifestyle that looked good on Instagram, but cost more than most people made in a year. This settlement I started. This settlement doesn't exist. Yet, Richard, we both know that. My lawyer says it could take another 6 months, maybe more, if you keep dragging your feet. I'm not dragging my feet. I'm trying to figure out how to give you half of a company that's underwater. She flinched, just a little enough that I saw it. I know, she said quietly. I know that now. I drank my coffee, watched a woman outside trying to corral 2 small kids into a minivan. One of them kept running in circles, arms out like an airplane. The woman looked exhausted. So what do you need? I asked. Linda's jaw tightened. I could see the muscles working, see her swallowing whatever pride she'd walked in here with. I've been looking for work, putting in applications. But Richard, the market for 57-year-old account managers, ISN single. T. double quotes. She stopped, started again. I had 3 interviews last week. Do you know what they offered me? Entry-level positions. $14 an hour. I'd be working with kids fresh out of college, answering phones and filing paperwork. So take it. It's work. I can't live on $14 an hour. Her voice rose slightly, and a couple at the next table glanced over. She lowered it. My rent alone is $2,200 a month. I've got car payments, insurance, credit cards, move somewhere cheaper. To where? A place like yours. The words came out sharp. Then she caught herself. I'm sorry. I didn't mean yeah. You did. She closed her eyes, took a breath. When she opened them again, they were wet. I'm drowning, Richard. I'm actually drowning. I've got maybe 6 weeks before I can't make rent. My credit cards are maxed. I tried to take out a personal loan and got denied. Do you know what that feels like? I did. I'd been denied for business credit twice in the last 4 months. But I didn't say that, just sat there watching the woman I'd spent most of my adult life with fall apart across from me. What about Sheila? I asked. You're friends with the Hampton houses. Can't they help? Linda laughed. Actually laughed. Sheila stopped returning my calls the day after I got fired. You know how it works, Richard. You're only interesting when you're successful. The second you're not, double quotes. She made a gesture like something disappearing into air. A barista called out a name. Someone's complicated order was ready. So what do you want from me? I asked. She looked down at her hands. Her nails were still perfect, that wine-dark color. Probably the last manicure she could afford. I need a bridge, she said. Just until I find something real. A few months, maybe less. I could work for you. At the company, answer phones, do bookkeeping. Whatever you need. I'm good at bookkeeping, you know that. I could help organize the accounts. Maybe bring in some new clients. Please. She reached across the table, put her hand on mine. Her skin was cold despite the Arizona heat. Please, Richard. I know I don't have any right to ask. I know what I said to you. I know I've been awful. but I'm asking anyway. I'm begging. I need this. I looked at her hand on mine. The indent where her wedding ring used to be was still visible. A little band of pale skin. 26 years. 2 kids. A mortgage we'd paid off together. Birthday parties and Christmas mornings. And the time Tommy fell off his bike and we both ran out of the house, nearly tripping over each other to get to him. And yesterday, in that mediator's office, she'd told me I would die, broke and alone. I pulled my hand back slowly. Let me think about it. Richard, I said, let me think about it. Her face went hard. There it was. Delinda I'd been seeing for the last few years. The one who kept score. Who measured everything by what it cost or what it was worth. So that's it? You're going to make me beg? No. Stood up. I'm going to think about whether I can afford to hire someone when I can barely afford to keep my foreman. I'm going to think about whether it makes sense to bring my ex-wife into a business that's falling apart. I'm going to think about a lot of things. I apologized. I know. I said I was sorry for what I said yesterday. Hergie! I grabbed my keys from the table. My coffee was still half full. 63 years old, and I still couldn't stomach wasting coffee. Even the bad kind. Richard. Her voice was smaller now. Scared. I really need this. I don't have anywhere else to go. I looked at her, saw the fear behind the makeup, the desperation behind the perfect posture. Saw the woman who'd stood next to me at our wedding, who'd held our sons when they were born, who'd believed in me once upon a time before believing in me became less important than believing in the version of life she'd decided we were supposed to have. I'll call you Friday. I said, Friday. Richard, I need to know. Friday. I walked out into the heat, sat in my truck with the engine off for 5 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. Linda, please. I'm sorry. Please. Then another. Linda, I can start Monday. Whatever you can pay, I'll do anything. I put the phone face down on the passenger seat, started the truck, drove back to the Mesa site where Miguel was still working, still believing that this house would get finished, that the work mattered, that showing up every day meant something. Maybe it didn't. But I knew one thing. Linda was right about one thing. I was small enough to remember what it felt like to be desperate. Small enough to know that people don't usually mean the cruelest things they say. They just mean the truest things at their worst moment. Small enough to still care, even when caring didn't make sense anymore. I grabbed my tools from the truck bed, got back to work. Didn't go. Her back? Not yet. Friday came faster than I wanted it to. I made payroll, barely transferred the last $2,100 from my personal account that was supposed to cover rent and groceries and a truck payment into the business account. Then cut McGill's check, along with payment for the 2-day laborers we'd had on site that week. Miguel knew. I could see it in his face when I handed him the check that afternoon. Both of us standing in the shell of the Martinez house with sawdust in our hair and the smell of cut lumber everywhere. Boss, he said, looking at the check but not moving to pocket it. This came from your personal account, didn't it? Don't worry about it. Richard, cash it today, Miguel. Before I changed my mind, he folded the check slowly, tucked it in his shirt pocket. You talked to your ex yet? I'd told him about the coffee meeting. Not everything, just enough. Not yet. You gonna hire her? Don't know. We stood there in the empty living room. Through the window frames, no glass yet. That was another expense we were pushing to next month. You could see the desert stretching out. All that brown dirt and scrub brush turning gold in the late afternoon light. Can I tell you something? Miguel asked. My first wife, Rosa Yu. Never met her. This was before I came to Arizona. She left me when our youngest was 2, said I. Worked too much, cared more about other people's houses than my own family. He pulled off his hat, ran a hand through his gray hair. She wasn't wrong. I was gone 60, 70 hours a week. Missed birthdays, missed school plays. When she left, I was angry. Thought she was selfish. Thought she didn't understand what it meant to provide. A hot breeze came through the window frames, carrying the smell of creosote and heat. What changed your mind? I asked. I didn't. Not for a long time. He put his hat back on, but about 5 years after the divorce. She called me. Her mother was sick. She'd lost her job taking care of her. She needed money for rent. And you know what I did? Helped her. Told her to go to hell. He said it quietly. Matter of fact, I was remarried by then. Had a good thing going with Carmen. Didn't need that old pain coming back around. So I told Rosa no. Told her she made her choice and hung up. He looked out at the desert. A hawk was circling something in the distance. She ended up moving in with her sister in Tucson. Her mom died 6 months later. Rosa and we talk now. Birthdays, Christmas, that kind of thing. For the girls, but I think about that phone call sometimes. About what it cost me to say no. Not money, I don't mean money. I mean the part of me that could have been bigger than my anger. He turned back to me. I'm not telling you what to do, boss. Just saying, sometimes the person who hurts you needs help for the same reason they hurt you in the first place. They were scared, they were small. And maybe helping them don't fix what broke, but it don't make it worse either. I didn't have words for that, just nodded. Miguel picked up his lunch cooler. I'll be here Monday, 7:00 We're gonna finish this house. You know that, right? Yeah. Good. Have a good weekend, boss. He left. I stayed there until the sun started setting, until the shadows got long and the heat finally broke. Enough to breathe. Then I drove to the grocery store, the cheap one, not the Whole Foods Linda used to drag me to, and bought chicken breasts, rice, frozen vegetables. The cashier was a kid, maybe 19, with headphones around his neck and a name tag that said Tyler. How's it going? He asked, scanning my items with the bored efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Been better. He looked up, actually looked at me. Yeah, that sucks, man. It does. Well, he bagged my groceries, double-bagged the chicken without me asking. Hope it gets better. Thanks, Tyra. I drove home, cooked the chicken, ate it at the small table in the kitchen, while the local news played on the TV I'd bought used off Craigslist. A house fire in Scottsdale. A water main break downtown. The weather. Hot tomorrow, hot the day after, hot forever probably. At 8:30, my phone rang. Tommy again. Hey, bud, Dad. His voice sounded strained. Have you talked to Mom lately? I sete de. My fork. Tuesday. Why? She called me this morning. She's single, quotes. S. ... She's really struggling. She said she lost her job. Said she's running out of money. Is that true? Yeah. Why didn't you tell me? Not my news to tell. Silence on the line. I could hear traffic in the background. Seattle traffic, different than Phoenix. Wetter, somehow, even in the sound. She asked me for money, Tommy said. That hit different than I expected. Sharp, like a nail going through your palm when you're not paying attention. What did you say? I sent her $2,000. It's basically my whole savings. But she's my mom. I couldn't just... He stopped. Was that stupid? No, it wasn't stupid. She said she asked you for a job, said you were thinking about it. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the neighbor was still watering his lawn. Same perfect lines. I probably had a timer system. Everything automated. Never had to think about it. I am thinking about it, I said. Are you going to give her one? I don't know yet. Dad. Tommy's voice got quieter. I know she hurt you. I know the divorce has been awful. But she's scared, really scared. I've never heard her sound like that. I pressed my forehead against the glass. It was still warm from the day's heat. She told me I was going to die, broke and alone, I said. That's what she said, right before she asked for my help. I know, she told me. He exhaled. She said she didn't mean it. Said she was angry and hurt, and Tommy, I need you to hear me. Your mom and I, we're done. We've been done for a long time. The divorce is just paperwork. But you and your brother, you don't have to choose sides. You can help her. You should help her. She's your mother, but you're my dad. I know. So what do I do? 28 years old. And my son was asking me for permission to love his mother. That's what divorce does. Turns simple things complicated. Makes loyalty feel like betrayal. You do what feels right, I said, and you don't feel guilty about it. We talked for a few more minutes. He told me about work, about a girl he'd been seeing, about normal things that felt foreign and good. When we hung up, I stood there at the window for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone, found Linda's number, stared at it. Miguel's words came back. Sometimes the person who hurts you needs help for the same reason they hurt you in the first place. I typed out a message. Me, can you come by there? Mesa site, Monday morning. 7 a.m. We'll talk. The response came in 30 seconds. Linda, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. Then another message. Linda, I won't let you down. I promise. I put the phone down, finished my dinner, washed the single plate, the single fork, the single glass. Everything in this rental house was singular. One of everything. I was camping in my own life. That night I couldn't sleep. Lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the air conditioner rattle, thinking about Monday, about what it meant to give someone a job when you couldn't afford to pay yourself, about what it meant to help someone who'd wished poverty on you, about whether mercy was strength or just another word for stupid. At 2 a.m., my phone lit up with an email. Subject line, Urgent Martinez property. I opened it. Mr. Hewitt, after reviewing the project timeline and consulting with our attorney, we've decided to terminate our contract effective immediately. We will not be making further payments until the property is brought up to code and completed per the original agreement dated October 2024. You are in breach of contract, and we reserve the right to seek damages for delays. Dr. and Mrs. Ashwin Martinez. I read it 3 times. Then I got up, went to the kitchen, and pulled out the project folder. Found the contract, the timeline we'd agreed to, the payment schedule. They were right. We were 8 weeks behind. The final payment, $47, wasn't due until completion. And completion was nowhere in sight. I sat at the kitchen table with the contract in front of me, doing math I already knew the answer to. Without that final payment, I couldn't pay suppliers, couldn't finish the house, couldn't pay Miguel, couldn't make rent on this place, or the truck payment, or the insurance, or the 1,000 other things that kept a business and a life from collapsing completely. And on Monday, I'd just promised Linda a job I couldn't afford to give her. The air conditioner rattled. Outside, somewhere in the darkness, a dog barked. I put my head in my hands, and for the first time since the divorce started, since the business started failing, since everything started falling apart, I felt something break inside me. Not like glass, like a dam, like something that had been holding back too much for too long. I didn't cry. Couldn't. Just sat there with that feeling, that knowledge that I'd run out of moves, run out of time, run out of whatever it took to keep pretending this was fixable. My phone buzzed. Another message. Linda, I can't sleep. Keep thinking about Monday. I won't waste this chance. Richard. I know you don't believe me, but I'll prove it. Thank you for seeing past what I said. Thank you for being better than I was. I stared at the message, at the words, better than I was, and I thought, lady, you have no idea how much worse I'm about to make both our lives. Monday morning, I was at the site by 6. Hadn't slept. Not really. Laid there doing mental maths that never added up right. Watching the clock tick from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. Till finally, I gave up and made coffee in the dark. The Martinez email was still on my phone. I'd read it maybe 20 times over the weekend. Like the words might change if I looked at them enough. They didn't. I sat in my truck at the job site, engined off, windows down, watching the sky go from black to gray to that pale pink that meant the heat was coming. Miguel's truck pulled in. At 6:45, he walked over lunch, cooler in one hand, thermos in the other. Morning, boss. You're here early. Couldn't sleep. He leaned against my truck bed, took a sip of his coffee. Martinez email? You saw it? They copied me. Professional courtesy, I guess. He shook his head. Breach of contract. That's some bullshit, Richard. We've been waiting on them for half the disaster. Architect changed the plans 3 times. They took 6 weeks to approve the tile selection. Doesn't matter. We're still behind. So what do we do? That was the question, wasn't it? What do you do when the floor falls out and you're still expected to land on your feet? We finish it anyway, I said. Miguel looked at me like I'd suggested we build a rocket ship. Boss, without that final payment, we finish it. Get it to code. Then we go after the payment. Can't sue us for breach if we deliver what we promised. With what money? I'll figure it out. He didn't argue, just nodded slowly. The way you do when you know someone's made a decision that might be stupid but you're going to respect it anyway. Your ex coming today? He asked. 7. You tell her about the Martinez situation. Not yet. You're gonna... I looked at the house. The empty windows. The roof that needed another week of work. The drywall that was supposed to go up 2 months ago. Yeah, I said. I'm gonna... Miguel straightened up. Want me to make myself scarce when she gets here? No. Stay. This is a job site. She needs to see what she's getting into. At 6:58, a white Mercedes pulled into the dirt lot. Linda's car, the one she'd complained about being 7 years old, like that was ancient. It was cleaner than my truck had been in a decade. She got out, wearing jeans real work, jeans, Levi's maybe, and a plain blue t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup that I could see. Sneakers instead of heels. I barely recognized her. Richard, she said, walking over. She nodded at Miguel. Miguel, good to see you again. Ma'am. Miguel touched the brim of his hat. He'd always been respectful like that. Old school. Linda stood there, hands in her pockets, looking smaller than I remembered. Vulnerable. The morning light wasn't kind, showed every line around her eyes, the gray roots she usually covered with expensive dye jobs. "So," she said, "where do I start?" I pulled the Martinez folder from my truck, handed it to her. "This is our current project. Custom build. Supposed to be done in April. Client just terminated the contract. Says we're in breach. They won't pay the final $47,000 until we finish. And we can't finish without money for materials." She opened the folder, flipped through the papers. Her face went very still. "How bad is it?" she asked quietly. "Bad. We're underwater on this job. Behind on supplier payments. I made payroll Friday, but I don't know about next week." "Jesus, Richard, yeah." She closed the folder, looked at the house, then back at me. "So, why, if you can't make payroll, you definitely can't pay me. You wanted a job. This is the job. You help me unfuck this situation, get the Martinez build finished, collect what we're owed, and keep this company alive long enough to figure out what comes next. For what salary? Whatever's left after Miguel gets paid. Could be $200 a week. Could be nothing." The wind picked up, blew dust across the lot. Linda didn't move. "That's insane," she said. "Probably I have rent due in 3 weeks. Bills. I can't work for nothing." "Richard, then don't. Go find one of those $14 an hour jobs. Answer phones for someone else. I won't hold it against you." She looked at me for a long moment. Something passed across her face, anger, maybe, or hurt, or just the realization that this was what rock bottom looked like. "What would I be doing?" she asked finally. I walked toward the house. She followed. Miguel stayed by the trucks, giving us space. Inside, showed her everything. The inspection reports, the punch list that was 3 pages long, the supplier invoices marked past due, the emails from the Martinez's attorney. "We need to reorganize the whole project," I said. "Priority work first stuff. That gets us to code and pasas inspection. Everything else comes later. And we need to call every supplier we owe money to, negotiate payment plans, figure out who will work with us and who won't. I can do that." She was looking at the papers now, her finger tracing down an invoice. "This lumber compañía, no. The regional manager used to handle their corporate accounts at Pinnacle. I could call him, might buy us some goodwill. Okay. And this inspection failure." She tapped another sheet. "This is just missing documentation. The work's done. You just didn't file the right forms. I can fix this today." I watched her, the way she was holding the folder now. Not like it was evidence of failure, but like it was a puzzle to solve. This was Linda H. work. The Linda I'd forgotten existed under all the designer clothes and the keeping up with the Joneses. Bullshit. "You think we can actually pull this off?" I asked. "I think we don't have a choice." She looked up at me. "But Richard, I need to know something. Are you doing this to punish me? Bringing me here to watch you fail so I see what I threw away?" "No." "Then why?" I took the folder back from her, set it on a sawhorse that was doing duty as a makeshift desk. "Because Miguel was right," I said, "about mercy, about being bigger than your anger. And because maybe you were right too." "About what?" "About me being small. Small vision, small results." "Maybe that's true. But small also means I still remember what it's like to need help. Still remember that people are more than the worst thing they've said to you." Her eyes got wet. She blinked it back. I didn't mean it, she said quietly. What I said in that office about you dying broke. I was angry and scared, and No, you don't know what it was like watching you struggle for years, watching the business barely survive, watching our retirement plans evaporate while my friends were traveling and buying second homes. And she stopped herself. That's not fair. That's not your fault. It's a little my fault. No, it's not. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. You were honest. You did good work. You treated people right. That's supposed to matter. That's supposed to count for something. Maybe it does, just not in money. She laughed, sad and sharp. Try telling that to the landlord. Miguel's voice called from outside. Boss, electrician's here. Says he needs to talk to you about the panel situation. I looked at Linda. You ready to work? She took a breath, straightened her shoulders. For just a second, I saw the woman who'd stood next to me at the altar, who'd believed we could build something good together. Yeah, she said, I'm ready. We walked outside together. The electrician was a guy named Dave, had worked with us on and off for years. He saw Linda and did a double take, but was professional enough not to comment. Richard, we got a problem with the main panel, he said. Needs to be upgraded to 200 MP to pass code, but the one you ordered is backordered 3 weeks. Can we use a 150 temporary? Not to code. Then we wait. Boss, that puts us another month behind. Linda cleared her throat. What if we source it from a different supplier? I can make some calls. See who has inventory. Dave looked at her, then at me. That'd work, if you can find one. Give me an hour, she said. She walked back to her car, pulled out a laptop from the trunk, sat on the tailgate in the morning sun, and started making calls. I watched her for a moment, hunched over the computer, phone pressed to her ear, hair falling out of the ponytail. Completely focused and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not love, that was gone, or buried, or transformed into something else I didn't have words for. But maybe respect, maybe recognition, maybe just the simple relief of not being alone in the mess. Miguel came up beside me. She gonna work out, you think? Don't know yet. Ask me in a week. Fair enough. He picked up his tool belt. Call me on, boss. Let's frame that back bedroom before it gets too hot. We worked through the morning. Linda made her calls. By noon, she'd found a panel in Tucson, a supplier who owed her a favor. From our Pinnacle days and negotiated a payment plan that gave us 60 days to settle up. By 2 p.m., she'd reorganized the punch list by priority and cost. By 4, she'd called the Martinez's attorney and scheduled a meeting to discuss the breach of contract claim. When Miguel and I finally knocked off for the day, covered in sawdust and sweat, she was still there, still working, still making calls and taking notes, and acting like this wasn't a sinking ship but a project worth saving. "We can head out," I told her. "We're done for the day." She looked up from her laptop. Her face was flushed from the heat. Her shirt had a dirt smudge on the shoulder. "I think I can get the inspection moved up," she said. "If we can get that documentation filed tomorrow, they might come out Wednesday instead of next week. Linda, go home, get some rest." "I don't want to go home." The words came out harder than I think she meant them to. She softened. "I want to finish this. I want to help." Miguel was already in his truck, engine running, giving us privacy. I sat down on the tailgate next to her. We didn't touch, just sat there as the sun started to sink and the heat finally, mercifully, began to break. "Thank you," I said, "for today, for actually showing up. Thank you for letting me." We sat there a minute longer. Then she closed her laptop. Richard, when you said I was right about you being small, yeah, I was wrong. You're not small. You're just not loud. There's a difference. She got in her Mercedes, drove away. I sat there until Miguel honked his horn, his way of saying, "Boss, go home. You look like hell." I waved him off, got in my truck, and I realized that for the first time in months, I wasn't dreading tomorrow. I was just curious to see what it would bring. Wednesday morning, the inspector showed up at 9. Linda had pulled strings, called in favors from her pinnacle days, navigated the city bureaucracy like she was born to at 10. Got him there, too, weeks ahead of schedule. His name was Patterson, mid-40s, clipboard in hand. The kind of guy who'd seen every shortcut and half-assed repair job in the state. Miguel and I stood back while he walked through the house. Linda followed him, tablet in hand, pulling up documentation before he even asked for it. "Electrical panel," Patterson said. "Upgraded to 200 amp. Installed Monday." Linda swiped her screen. "Here's the permit. Here's the supplier invoice. Here's the electrician's certification." Patterson made a note, moved to the bathroom, GFCI outlets. All installed per code. Dave Chun did the work. I can call him if you need verbal confirmation. That won't be necessary. I watched Linda work. She was wearing jeans again, another plain t-shirt, but she moved through that house like she owned it. Confident. Professional. Every question Patterson asked, she had the answer before he finished speaking. Miguel leaned close to me. "She's good at this." "Yeah. You think she could have been this good the whole time? Back when you were married?" I thought about that. About the years Linda had spent climbing the ladder at Pinnacle, about the business dinners and the networking events, and the way she'd always known exactly what to say to make a client feel important. "I think she was always good at it," I said. "I just never saw it. She was doing her thing. I was doing mine." We stopped paying attention. Patterson finished his inspection around 10:30. We stood. In what would eventually be the living room, drywall was up now, taped and mudded, waiting for texture and paint while he filled out his forms. "You'll pass," he said, not looking up. "Pending final plumbing inspection, but the structural and electrical work is solid." Linda's whole body relaxed. I hadn't realized how tense she'd been holding herself. "Thank you," she said. "We appreciate you coming out on short notice. Thank whoever convinced Susan to move my schedule around. That's not easy." He handed her a copy of the report. "Good work. Here." Lot of guys, they'd cut corners trying to catch up. You didn't. After he left, Linda turned to me and Miguel. For a second, she just stood there. Then she let out this laugh, half relief, half disbelief. "We did it," she said. "Holy shit, we actually did it." "We're not done yet," I said, but I was. Smiling, "I know, but we're close. Richard, we're actually close." Miguel started packing up his tools. "I'm gonna grab lunch." "You two want anything?" "I'm good," I said. "Me too," Linda said. "Thanks, Miguel." After his truck pulled out, it was Jesus. The house was quiet, except for the wind rattling through the window frames and the distant sound of someone's radio playing Spanish music on another site down the road. Linda sat down on a stack of drywall, pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the Martinez's attorney. We need to set up a meeting, show them this inspection report, and get them back to the table." "Wait." She looked up. I sat down next to her, not too close, but close enough to talk without yelling. "Before you do that, I need to tell you something," I said. "Okay, I haven't been entirely honest with you about how bad things are." Her face went careful. "How bad The business account is at $340. My personal account is at $180. I haven't paid myself in 6 weeks. The suppliers I owe money too. It's not just 4 or 5, it's 12. And the total isn't 18,000, it's closer to 38. She didn't say anything, just sat there holding her phone. I can make Migla's payroll this week, I continued. Barely. After that, I don't know. And even if Martinez pays us that final 47,000, even if we collect every penny, it's not enough to dig us out. We're too far underwater. Why didn't you tell me this on Monday? Because I didn't want you to leave. The wind picked up. Somewhere a door banged. Neither of us moved. You lied to me, she said quietly. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing, Richard. I know. She stood up, walked to the window, stood there with her back to me, looking out at the desert and the unfinished development and the mountains in the distance that never changed no matter how much everything else did. Do you know what it took for me to show up Monday? She asked. Do you know how much pride I had to swallow? I came here broke and desperate, and you let me think there was a chance. You let me work for 3 days believing we could fix this. We can still don't. She turned around. Her eyes weren't wet. They were hard. Don't tell me we can fix it. Not if you're 38,000 in debt and can't make payroll. That's not fixable, Richard. That's drowning. I stood up, walked over to her. You want to leave? I won't stop you, but don't pretend you came here to save the company. You came here because you needed something same as me. We're both drowning. At least here, we're drowning together. That's not fair. None of this is fair. You think it's fair? I spent 26 years building something just to watch it collapse. You think it's fair you gave 22 years to a company that kicked you out with 4-week severance? Life isn't fair, Linda. It's just what happens when you're busy making other plans. She stared at me. Really stared. And I saw something shift behind her eyes. John Lennon, she said. What? That's a John Lennon quote. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. You always got it slightly wrong. She almost smiled. You used to say it all the time when the boys were little. When Tommy would get sick right before a vacation or Kevin would break his arm the week before his baseball tournament. I didn't know it was John Lennon. I know. That's what made it funny. She turned back to the window. God, Richard, what happened to us? We got busy making plans. She laughed. It sounded sad. Yeah. I guess we did. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hewitt, construction. Mr. Hewitt, this is Roch Martinez. Male voice, accent I couldn't quite place. My wife and I received notice that you passed inspection. I looked at Linda, put the phone on speaker. That's correct. We're moving into final phase now. Should be complete within 2 weeks. I see. A pause. Mr. Hewitt, I owe you an apology. Our attorney advised us to send that termination email. Said it would protect our interests. But I've been in the medical field for 25 years, and I know what it looks like when someone is working in good faith. You've been working in good faith. Linda stepped closer. I could see her holding her breath. We would like to schedule a walkthrough. Dr. Martinez continued. If the work is as solid as the inspection suggests, we'll release the final payment. All of it. No more legal threats. Just let's finish this house. When do you want to come by? I asked. Friday morning. 9 a.m. We'll be here. Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. And please tell your team, tell them we appreciate their work. I know we've been difficult clients. You've been fine. We'll see you Friday. I hung up. Linda and I just stood there. Did that just happen? She asked. I think so. Friday. Jesus Christ. Richard, that's 2 days away. No. We need to finish the trim work. Get the paint done. The fixtures installed. The floss. I know. She pulled out her phone. Started typing. I'm calling everyone. Miguel, the painters, the flooring guy. If we work non-stop, Linda. She stopped. Thank you, I said, for staying. For not walking out when I told you how bad it really was. She looked at me, and for just a second, I saw the girl I'd met in that college bar. The one who'd believed in possibilities. Who'd thought that love and hard work could build something permanent. I'm not staying for you, she said quietly. I'm staying because I need the money, and because I'm tired of running away from hard things. Okay, but Richard, don't lie to me again. Not even by omission. If we're doing this, if we're really trying to save this thing, then we do it honest. All the way, deal. She held out her hand. We shook on it. Her grip was firm. Her palm was rough. 3 days on a job site had already started changing her. Now let's call Miguel, she said, and figure out how to finish a house in 48 hours. We worked until dark. Made calls, made lists, made promises we weren't entirely sure we could keep. When I finally left around 8, Linda was still there, sitting in her car with the laptop, emailing suppliers, coordinating schedules, doing the kind of logistics work that kept projects from falling apart. I tapped on her window. She rolled it down. Go home, I said. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. 5 more minutes. Linda. Okay, she saved her work. Closed the laptop. Richard, that thing you said earlier about us drowning together? Yeah, I think maybe that's the first true thing you've said to me in 5 years. She rolled up the window, drove away. I stood there in the empty lot, under the stars, with the desert wind cooling the sweat on my neck, and I thought, maybe we can't save the business. Maybe we can't save the money. But maybe, Jess, maybe we could save something else. Something that mattered more than $47,000. Something like dignity or forgiveness. Or just the simple knowledge that we'd tried. Thursday was a blur. Miguel showed up at 6 with 2 additional gascosans of his. Good workers, cash under the table, and we hit the ground running. Linda arrived 20 minutes later with coffee and breakfast burritos from a place on the way, still hot, wrapped in foil. Eat fast, she said. Painters are here at 7, flooring crew at 8, and I've got the fixture guy coming at noon. We ate standing up, drank the coffee too hot, got to work. The house transformed hour by hour. Trim went up, paint went on. The floors engineered hardwood. Nothing fancy but clean got installed while we worked around the crew, framing out the last of the closets, hanging doors, installing hardware. By noon, the temperature was pushing 110. We worked anyway. Linda run point on everything. Directed traffic. Solved problems. When the painters ran short on the accent color for the kitchen, she drove to 3 different stores until she found a match. When the toilet and the master bath came in the wrong color, she convinced the supplier to expedite a replacement for free. Around 3, I found her sitting on the front steps. Just sitting. Her shirt was soaked through with sweat. Her hair was falling out of the ponytail, and she had paint on her forearm. You okay? I asked. My feet hurt. My back hurts. I think I'm getting a heat migraine. She looked up at me. But Richard, look at this house. Just look at it. I turned around. Looked. It was beautiful. Not magazine beautiful. Not the kind of house Linda used to circle in those design books she'd buy, but honest, beautiful, solid, real. The kind of place where people could build a life. We did that, she said quietly. You and me and Miguel and everyone else. We actually did that. Not done yet. I know, but we're close. I sat down next to her. Our shoulders almost touched. You were right, I said. On Monday, when you said you didn't want to go home, I get it now. This is better than home. What is? Building something, making something real, being part of something that matters. She leaned her head back against the doorframe. I forgot what this felt like, working towards something, instead of just ... maintaining, surviving, pretending. Yeah, we sat there for maybe 2 minutes. Then Miguel called from inside that the fixture guy was leaving, and did I want to check his work before he went? Linda and I stood up together. Let's finish this, she said. We worked until midnight. Then Linda sent everyone home, even Miguel, who wanted to stay, and it was just the two of us, cleaning up, sweeping sawdust, picking up scraps, making the house ready. Around 1 a.m., we stood in the living room. The lights were on beautiful recessed fixtures Linda had found on clearance sand. The whole space glowed warm. You could see the mountains through the windows, the stars. This is someone's home, Linda said. Someone's going to live here, raise kids. Here, maybe, fight and make up, and have Christmas mornings and terrible teenage years and all of it. She turned to me. We built that. We built the space where someone's life happens. That's always been the job. I know, but I forgot. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that's what you do. That's what you've always done. Her voice got thick, and I called you a failure. God, Richard, I called you a failure. You were scared. That's not an excuse. No, but it's a reason. She wiped her eyes with her dirty hands. Probably smeared more paint on her face. Didn't care. Can I tell you something? She asked. Yeah. When I lost my job at Pinnacle, you know what hurt the most? It wasn't the money. It was realizing that none of it mattered. 22 years of work, of climbing that ladder, of being important, and they replaced me in a week, like I was never there, like I was nothing. You're not nothing. I felt like nothing. And then I came here, to this. She gestured around. This failing business, this half-finished house, this desperate last-ditch effort. And for the first time in years, I felt like something, like I mattered, like the work I did changed something real. Outside, a car drove past. Headlights swept across the walls. The Martinezes are coming at 9, I said. We should get some sleep. I'm not going to sleep. Are you? Probably not. Want to just stay here? We could sit in the car, keep the AC running. So that's what we did. Sat in her Mercedes with the engine running, the cool air blasting, watching the house we'd built together through the windshield. Around 3, she fell asleep, head against the window, mouth slightly open, completely exhausted. I didn't sleep. Just sat there watching the sky get lighter, thinking about everything that had broken and everything we'd managed to fix and everything that was still broken that no amount of work could repair. At 6 a.m., I woke her up gently. Linda, sun's coming up. We should get ready. She blinked awake, disoriented. What time is it? 6. Oh, God. She looked at herself in the mirror, laughed. I look like hell. You look like someone who worked for it. We cleaned up as best we could. I had an extra shirt in my truck still, had paint on it, but cleaner than the one I'd been wearing. Linda used baby wipes from her glove box to get the worst of the grime off her face and arms. Miguel showed up at 7:30. Then the landscapers, who'd agreed to do a quick clean-up of the yard. Then a woman Linda had hired to stage the house, just some basic furniture. Nothing fancy, but enough to help the Martinezes see the space as a home. At 8:45, a BMW pulled into the driveway. Dr. Martinez and his wife. And two kids, a boy about 10, a girl maybe 7. My stomach clenched. Linda stepped up beside me. Ready? No. Me neither. Let's do it. Anyway, we walked out to meet them. Dr. Martinez was younger than I'd expected. Late 30s, maybe. His wife was beautiful, graceful, wearing a sundress, despite the heat. The kids were already excited, pointing at the house, asking questions in that rapid-fire way kids do. Mr. Hewitt, Dr. Martinez said, shaking my hand. Thank you for having us. Thank you for coming. This is Linda. She's been managing the project. Mrs. Hewitt. Dr. Martinez's wife asked. Not anymore, Linda said, smoothly. But yes. Would you like the tour? We walked them through every room, every detail. Linda explained the choices, the tile, the fixtures, the layout, while I pointed out the structural work, the quality of the build, the things you couldn't see but mattered anyway. The kids ran ahead, calling dibs on bedrooms, talking about where their beds would go. In the master bath, Mrs. Martinez touched the countertop. This is beautiful. This is exactly what we wanted. In the kitchen, Dr. Martinez opened cabinets, checked the fixtures, nodded approvingly. The work is excellent, really excellent. But it was in the living room where everything changed. The little girl, her name was Priya, stood at the window, looking out at the mountains. The morning light was coming through just right, golden and warm, and she turned to her mother with this look of pure joy. Mama, she said, can we really live here? Mrs. Martinez knelt down, pulled her daughter close. Yes, sweetheart, this is our home. And I saw Linda's face, saw something break open in her expression. Not sadness, something else, something like understanding. Dr. Martinez pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke quietly for a minute. Then he turned to me. Mr. Hewitt, I'm authorizing the final payment. All $47,000. My accountant will process it today. You'll have it by Monday. I shook his hand. Thank you. That means thank you. No. Thank you for finishing, for doing good work, for ... He looked around, for understanding what this means to us. They stayed another 20 minutes. Measured, planned, talked about furniture and curtains, and all the small decisions that turn a house into a home. When they finally left, Miguel came out from where he'd been waiting by the trucks. We did it, boss, he said. We actually pulled it off. Yeah, you should celebrate. Take the rest of the day. Hell, take the weekend. But I was looking at Linda. She was standing in the driveway watching the BMW disappear down the road, and she was crying. Not sobbing, just tears running down her face while she stood perfectly still. I walked over Miguel, gave us space. Hey, I said quietly. I'm okay. She wiped her face. I'm just ... that little girl. Did you see her face? Yeah. She's going to grow up in that house. She's going to have her own room and wake up to those mountains and bring friends over and have her first heartbreak and graduate high school and leave for college. And it's all going to start in that House. The house we built. Linda and I spent 22 years at Pinnacle moving money around, making rich people richer, filing reports nobody read. And I thought that mattered. I thought that made me important. She turned to me. But this matters. What you do, what you've always done, is actually matters. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just stood there while she cried in a dirt lot in the Phoenix heat, crying for everything we'd lost and everything we'd found and everything we'd never get back. Finally, she stopped, took a breath, pulled herself together. "What happens now?" she asked. "We wait for the money. We pay Miguel. We pay the suppliers. We figure out the rest. And the company. I don't know. Maybe it survives. Maybe it doesn't. But either way, we finish this house. That's something." She nodded. "That's something." Miguel drove off. The staging crew packed up. One by one, everyone left, till it was just Linda and me in the empty lot. "I should go," she said. "I need a shower and about 14 hours of sleep." "Yeah, me too." She got in her Mercedes, started the engine, then rolled down the window. "Richard, when you pay the suppliers, if there's anything left, I meant what I said. Pay Miguel first. Pay everyone else. I can wait." "Linda, I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror. Pay Miguel." She put the car in drive. "I'll see you Monday." "Yeah, Monday." She drove away. I stood there alone, looking at the house, at the work, at the proof that broken things could still be finished, that desperate measures sometimes worked. The dignity wasn't about the size of your dreams, but about showing up anyway. My phone buzzed. Tommy. Mom just called. Said you guys finished the Martinez house. Said you saved her life. Dad, what happened? I typed back slowly. Me? We built something. It's complicated. Call you tonight. Then another text. This one from Linda. Linda, thank you for giving me the job. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for being who you are. I didn't respond. Couldn't find the words. I got in my truck, started the engine, and I drove away from that house, that beautiful, honest, hard-won house, knowing that whatever happened next, whatever bills can do, and whatever failures still waited around the corner, we'd built something that mattered. Not just a house, but maybe something like forgiveness. Maybe something like grace. Maybe just the simple truth that sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who need you the most. And being big enough to help them doesn't make you weak. It just makes you human. I drove home through the morning traffic, through the heat already building, through the ordinary Thursday of an extraordinary week. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I just felt done. And that was enough.